Alright, for this episode, we are playing Mono Blue Tempo. And let's have a quick look. So, this deck is tempo based, it's Mono Blue, and this is not the original list, as the original list doesn't have Shark Typhoon in it, and it also doesn't have Mystic Sanctuary in it. And now, why did I include Shark Typhoon? Just so we have an additional win condition, since you can cycle it and turn it into a huge creature in the long run. And I also believe that Mystic Sanctuary would be a very good card in this deck. I'm not sure yet, we'll have to find out, but I feel like this is a really good card for this deck. And I also included 2 Brazen Borrower just in case. An additional bounce spell. I also have 2 Into the Royal, because since this is a tempo based deck, if we are out tempoed by our opponent, well, there's no way for us to deal with their creatures or whatever permanent they cast. So we need to find a way to bounce it back so that we can counter it afterwards. But again, it's pretty much almost the same. And the idea of the deck is to play all your 1/1 flying creatures, some of them with flash, some of them are unblockable. And Siren Storm Tamer is a key card here because either you use it to deal damage and as your main creature to deal damage to your opponent, or you use it as a counter spell in case they target any of your other creatures. Brineborn is basically our creature to kill our opponent as quickly as possible, and then everything else are counter spells. So let's go ahead and find out. Let's see how this deck actually plays. Let's go. Okay, so we have the Spectral Sailor, we have 2 lands, we have Curiosity and Brineborn, and even Essence Capture. So yep, we'll keep that. And we'll pass the turn. Oh, a Goblin deck. Alright. Well, we'll cast Spectral Sailor at the end of our opponent's turn. And we'll cast Curiosity, targeting our Spectral Sailor, and start attacking them. And of course we'll draw a card, and we'll play Castle Vantress and Slitherblade, just so we have a blocker for Skirt Prospector. And besides, we have nothing else to cast aside from Spectral Sailor. Alright, well, they've casted Conspicuous Snoop. Good thing it's a mountain that they have at the top of their library. So let's go ahead and attack with Spectral Sailor. So our game plan is most likely to kill, or to deal as much damage as quickly as possible. We've drawn a Lofty Denial for us to counter. No, we're not going to counter that. Yeah, we'll let it resolve. We can block that. Basically, we need to make sure that we counter the right spell. Conspicuous. Yep, I'll take that. No blockers. We're lucky enough to have 2 consecutive mountains on top of our opponent's library, so Conspicuous is not really doing anything at the moment. So I'll cast Brineborn, since we still have a chance to do that, and then cast Spectral Sailor at the same time, so that we get a +1/+1 counter on our Brineborn Cutthroat. And that should give us a chance to attack. Alright, let's go ahead and attack. Maybe including Brineborn? Because we wanted to kill them as quickly as possible. Yep. I mean, I can keep Slitherblade as a blocker for any of the 2/1/1s. Conspicuous, I'll just keep on taking that for now. Maybe I can cast Slither Blade, but I'm thinking, since we have Into the Royal, maybe we can bounce Conspicuous. And would you look at that? Another land on top of our opponent's library. So yeah, we'll let that in. That's not something that we wanted to counter. A mountain, they are probably going to attack. I will take that again. Yep, no blocks. And then Into the Royal. That's Conspicuous. Because we can't be lucky enough to have all mountains on top of our opponent's library all the time, there is a chance that that's not going to be a mountain and it's going to be a goblin. And of course, since we have a chance, let's take it. Alright, we drew a land. We will attack with the 2 Spectrals and Brineborn. We will have to force them to block us. And since Brineborn is getting bigger, they will be forced to block it. And yes, they did. Alright. So they will most likely... And we drew another land. That's really good. So they will most likely cast Conspicuous again, but we're ready for it this time. We now have Essence Capture ready for that. So we will definitely counter that. And since we have Lofty Denial, we can also counter the next spell they are going to cast. What's good about Essence Capture is we can put that 1/1/1 counter to our Spectral Sailor, and Brineborn will also get its +1/+1 counter. So it's now a 5/4 creature. So if our opponent isn't going to cast any spell, any creature spell, well, I really have to counter that. And Brineborn is getting bigger. Alright, so our opponent has decided to quit. Alright, now moving on to our next game. Alright, well, we're not going to keep this. Knowing that our opponent is Yorion and we don't have a threat to play, we'll take a mulligan for this one. We needed at least a creature. Something like this, yeah. Yeah, this one's going to work for us. We'll keep it. Probably Mystic Sanctuary out of all the cards that we have, because we kind of can cast all of them. And it's Yorion, so we're definitely gonna have to kill kill our opponent as quickly as possible. Alright, we drew a Curiosity, which is really good. We have to cast our Siren Storm Tamer. And then, so next turn we should be able to enchant Curiosity. Yeah, Golden Egg's fine. Yeah. So next turn we should be able to enchant Curiosity to our Siren Storm Tamer. And we have an open mana as our backup counter in case they target our Storm Tamer with our Spell Snare. So far so good. Alright, we now have 3 lands. Still have a backup, 2 counters to be more specific. We have a backup Lofty Denial and a Spell Pierce. We can still attack. Huh. Our opponent is probably having some second thoughts. Well, we really are in a good position anyway. We have a creature with Curiosity, although it's not dealing a lot of damage. But we can also cast Brineborn at the end of our opponent's turn in case they don't do anything, or even if they do, cast something, and if it's not a creature removal or anything like that, we can still cast it, I think. Ooh, Curious Obsession. I'm not gonna cast it now. Yeah, sure, you're fine. You can cast Omen of the Sea. I'm not gonna bother countering that. You're fine with that as well. Well, what I know about a Yorion deck is that it takes time for them to build their board, and they are kind of looking for the cards that they need. It's not like they got everything right away, and even if they do, it takes time for them to cast each spell. So for example, this one, let's counter that. You know what, let's cast Brineborn first, so that when we counter, Brineborn will get a +1/+1 counter. And it went well. Alright. I will cast Curious Obsession now and targeting maybe Brineborn, but they can block it. I'll just target Siren Storm Tamer instead and attack for 5 damage. Alright. Now we still have a backup counter, Lofty Denial, and we drew Mystic Sanctuary, which is a really good draw. So we can probably cast Spectral Sailor at the end of our opponent's turn to give Brineborn a +1/+1 counter. We can counter this, and then Brineborn gets its +1/+1 counter, and then yeah, cast Spectral Sailor. So right now we're looking at 7 damage. Plus we play our Mystic Sanctuary, putting our Lofty Denial back on top of our library, which once we deal our damage to our opponent, we will draw that card again. So that Mystic Sanctuary combo, really alright. Huh. Sure, let's keep it. We go first anyway. Let's see. So we are playing Curiosity to our Siren Storm Tamer. We are going to draw a card, definitely, yes. Treasure Hunt, I'm completely fine with that. Thassa's Oracle, sure. Now, do I play a second Curiosity? Huh. I can if I want to, but do I really have to? Because I do have enough to counter. You know what? Let's enchant, go all the way with Siren Storm Tamer and draw 2 cards. Alright, so I chose not to draw another one because we will be discarding a card here anyway. will choose not to draw a card at all. We have 7 cards. All of them are counter spells. If you want to do and cast Treasure Hunt, go ahead, cast Treasure Hunt. And then another Treasure Hunt, huh? Sure. And let's cast Brineborn Cutthroat at the end of our opponent's turn. They're discarding a lot of cards here. They're basically holding a lot of lands. And it seems like the key to their deck is to cast Treasure Hunt. I would like to draw a card. Probably not. Not anymore. Alright, let's see. Are they ready to cast their spells? Sure, let's see. I'm interested with what are they trying to draw here. Thassa. When Thassa enters, look at the top X cards. Sure. Sure. I don't know what this deck is. Alright, so the deck played really well, and it pretty much out-tempoed most of our opponents, regardless of whatever deck they're using. It did perform really well. And Mystic Sanctuary did play exactly as how I imagined it. Will I play this deck again? Yes. So, if you enjoy that, well, I hope you did, hit like and please subscribe for future videos, future uploads. And I hope to see you again in the next episode. For now, ciao.